There's an elite member of the 12s, an elite group of sorts. They are the Noti Gang. Those are the folks that are not just subscribed to Seahawks Today, but have their notifications turned on so they never miss a moment what's happening with the Seattle Seahawks as we bring you daily news and rumors, our live shows, Q&A mailbags. If the Seahawks have breaking news, we're the first to talk about it here on the channel. So stop whatever you're doing. Don't just subscribe, but join the Noti Gang. Hit that Noti Bell to stay alert on your favorite team. Spam Noti Gang in the chat if you're a member of the Noti Gang. We'll get started with today's show. Smitty, he's on vacation, but his burner has made an appearance. That looks like a graduation photo of some sorts of Smitty there. Ah, I see. Smitty, his burner says, was the Dre'Mont Jones signing a mistake? Will he return next season? Hashtag Seahawks. You know, I would hate to call it a mistake, but kind of looks that way, doesn't it? Dre'Mont Jones has not played up to expectations. He has not lived up to all that moolah, all that money that he was paid this past offseason. And I would think, I know that I've seen some rumblings, people talking about the Seahawks could move on from him, try to cut their losses and get something out of him. But I tend to think that he will be back next year and the Seahawks will give one more go at it. That they'll see, okay, is there something there? Maybe it was just a rough first year or something like that. Maybe it's the scheme, the coaching staff. Maybe you need to make some changes there. To me, I think it's too early to cut your losses already. I do think he's back. I would be surprised if they move on. What do you guys think? Should the Seahawks ultimately move on from Dre'Mont Jones? Y for yes, in for no. Our pinned comment today. Weigh in. Tell us what you think. Take your 610 with a $2 super chat. Bang! Says, WWE, I was at WrestleMania 19 at Safeco Field. Man, those were the days. That was a while ago when that happened. I went to WrestleMania last year at AT&T Stadium in Dallas. And I got to say, I've always been like a casual wrestling guy, never a diehard. But that was one of the most entertaining things I've ever seen, was seeing WrestleMania firsthand. If you've never been, you need to go. Mariners fan writes in, should we have Bobby back next year? Mariners fan, great question when it comes to Bobby Wagner. I'll say this much. Bobby's looked great. He's been one of the best middle linebackers in all of football. He's third in the league in tackles at this point. I don't think the Seahawks are going to be able to get away with giving him $7 million like they did this past offseason. I think that there's going to be other teams that could be willing to pay more than the $7 million that he commanded. So if you're the Seahawks, you got to think, okay, how do we keep Bobby but not pay him over the top too much where we can't afford him? I think he's back, but I think it's another 1, maybe 2-year deal of sorts. I don't think that they're going to give him a long-term contract at this point in his career. Cincinnati Seahawks writes in, should the Seahawks re-sign Noah Fant or draft a rookie tight end or just work with Parkinson in Disley? I think you can live in a world where you re-sign Fant and draft a rookie tight end. You look at this Seahawks team, they've underutilized the tight end position. I think it has more to do with coaching than it does the talent itself. I think Noah Fant can be a top 10 tight end in this league when he's given an opportunity, but this Seahawks offense does not give him the opportunity to do so. I mean, think about all these tight ends that we've seen come through this Seahawks team over the years. The likes of Jimmy Graham and Greg Olsen and others, and all of them, literally all of them, were underutilized. That's a system problem. That's not a talent problem. I think you're seeing the same thing with Noah Fant here. I want to see the system change that utilizes the tight ends more. Look at the best teams in football. What do they all have in common? They use their tight ends accordingly. San Fran with George Kittle. Kansas City with Travis Kelce. You're going down the board. Got to have a great tight end if you're going to compete at a high level. I think you could draft a rookie, but still keep Noah Fant both. That's what I would do. Aaron Bermuth, my guy. Good to see you here. Do you think Pete and John draft a quarterback with our first pick in the draft? I would think so. Also depends on what the board plays out at that point, where the Seahawks ultimately end up picking, who is still available. I don't expect Caleb Williams and Drake May to be around when the Seahawks pick, but the Jaden Daniels, the Michael Penix, the Bo Nixes of the world, that company, maybe Quinn Ewers, J.J. McCarthy. Somebody will be available when the Seahawks pick. And I would be surprised at this juncture if it is not a quarterback with that first pick. Cincinnati Seahawks writes in, should the Seahawks re-sign Damien Lewis? I think so. I think Damien Lewis does come back. I would be surprised if he's not back with the Seahawks team. I do think they need to invest in the interior of the offensive line. I don't necessarily think Anthony Bradford is the solution that they thought he would be, the rookie out of LSU. He's been terrible when it comes to pass blocking, graded as one of the worst pass blockers in football. So maybe you bring back Damien Lewis, but still try to draft and find younger pieces. That interior of the offensive line needs help. I don't know about Evan Brown either. Evan Brown, I think that the Seahawks would like Oluwatimi to take that spot, the rookie out of Michigan. He's the future, but we'll see. Still a lot to figure out. You have your starting tackles, I think, for the next decade with Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross, but you still have some pieces to figure out the interior. Steve the Ref checking in. Trace's dad. You know, funny story before I answer this question. Trace and I, and you guys know Trace, our buddy that's here with us from time to time on Seahawks Today, host of Saints Now. He and I, when we mention our dads, we always say that, you know, if they ever just met each other, Steve and Charlie, they'd be best friends. I told my dad this, and now he wants to meet Steve. So now we got to get Steve and Charlie together. But Steve the Ref writes in, will the Seahawks bring Bobby Wagner, bring him back after this year? I think they will. I think Bobby comes back. I'm not sure exactly how it looks. I think it's a 1 or 2 year deal probably. But I think what we saw from Bobby Wagner in 2023 was that he has not missed a step, that he's still a Hall of Fame caliber player, that he still has something left in the tank, is still very important, still is a great leader, wants to be with this Seahawks team. I think Bobby Wagner's hungry to compete. The Seahawks team clearly still needs him. I don't think that should shy away the Seahawks from drafting young linebacker help, because Devin Bush certainly isn't going to be back next year. You're going to need somebody to back up Bobby and Jordyn Brooks and those guys. But, yes, I do think Bobby Wagner's back next year. He's too important to the Seahawks team to move on from him elsewhere. A lot of great memories of Bobby Wagner over the years, including this year with what he's done with the Seahawks team. What is your favorite memory of Bobby Wagner in a Seahawks uniform? Weigh in the comment section. Tell me what that is. Folks, I got a great deal that we're offering over at chatsports.com/Seahawks hats. Hats on sale, up to 50% off. Hats and beanies both. It is getting a little colder now. It's time to start thinking about those beanies. And these are just some of the hats. There's plenty more out there at chatsports.com/Seahawks hats that you can look up and see for yourself. Whether you want a flat bill, a beanie, baseball cap, all sorts of different styles to choose from. Rock out with your flock out and check out these great Seahawks hats, whether it's the throwback style, the current logo, whatever it may be. Plenty of selections to choose from. Go to chatsports.com/Seahawks hats to get yours today. Link is in the comments and description of today's video. Chatsports.com/Seahawks hats. Time for a couple more questions before we wrap up today's show. AJS writes, how do you evaluate Devin Bush and Brooks' absence? Bad. That did not go well. Devin Bush, get ready to learn XFL, buddy. Because Devin Bush, he ain't it. I can tell you this right now. He is not that guy. And the Steelers were very glad that he moved on to Seattle. And remember, when the Seahawks brought in Devin Bush, they didn't have Bobby locked down yet. They didn't know if Jordyn Brooks was going to be healthy for week 1. He was an emergency situation. And when they've needed him, it has not gone well. I am not a fan of Devin Bush. I don't think most people are. Devin Bush will not be back next year. I can promise you that much. It has not gone well when he's been on the football field. Nelson Gonzalez writes in, should we try to trade for cornerback Jaire Alexander? So I don't know if you guys heard about this, but Jaire Alexander was recently suspended by the Green Bay Packers for being a part of the coin toss when he wasn't even a captain. And it ended up costing his team a possession, whatever, because he didn't know how the coin toss worked. So he's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. So the answer for me is no. I'm not doing that. I'm not messing with Jaire Alexander in that case. No thanks, Nelson. WWE fan writes, should Seattle re-sign Geno Smith? Well, he's not a free agent. Seahawks have a team option on him. I think Geno's coming back next year. I think he comes back, but that shouldn't shy the Seahawks away from finding a younger quarterback to eventually be Geno's replacement. I could see Geno back, but still have that young quarterback both into the fold. We'll see as far as that works. But I do think Geno's going to be back. And I think they should bring him back at least for one more year and go from there. Last question. Mariners fan writes in. What are your thoughts on the four-man front? Our personnel is not great for it. Man, typically, when the Seahawks get gashed in the run game, when the run defense is bad, it's usually that 3-4 defense just getting blasted, just getting exposed. Next year, I want Clint Hurtt gone, but that's not going to do it for me. I want to go back to a full-time 4-3 defense in Seattle. I mean, you go back to the glory days of this offense, this defense rather, in the Legion, and when it was at its best. It was at its best when it was the 4-3 defense that got them that Super Bowl. That's what the Seahawks need to do. Go back to that and stop the run that way. Thanks for joining us on the channel. Subscribe now. Turn on notifications. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.